Ever wondered if miracles and the unexplained really happen? Hi, I'm Isabella, your host. Welcome to Speaking of Miracles. Stay with me because the truths I uncover might just change everything you thought you knew. If you want more content like this, please remember to like, share, and hit the subscribe button below. In today's stories, we're going to discuss aliens, monoliths, and the mystery of it all. Alien artifacts or an elaborate hoax. In 2020, the first mysterious monolith appeared in Utah, and then another one in Colorado, and there were more. And then they just vanished without a trace. Or so we thought, because they are back. We don't know why they're back now, or who is behind what, or what is behind them. Let's take it back a little bit. So, to understand the story, let's go back to November of 2020. Biologists from the Utah Department of Public Safety, they were out counting bighorn sheep. They were on a routine helicopter survey when they discovered something very unusual. As the helicopter was sort of hovering and soaring closer to the rugged terrain so they could count these sheep, one of the crew members saw something strange. So strange, he shouted, "What's that?" And he was pointing to something that was right below the helicopter. So obviously he got the attention of the other crew. They all could see, they looked down and they could see something really shiny that was sitting in the middle of the canyon. Now you need to keep in mind, this was in the middle of red rock country where the nearest civilization was hundreds of miles away. And this strange object was just sitting at the bottom of one of these isolated canyons. For all of these reasons and just plain curiosity, they decided they needed to take a closer look. So they were able to find a clear place to bring down the helicopter and land that was semi-close to the canyon's base. So they all got out of the helicopter and they made their way over to the shiny object. As they got closer, they were actually shocked to see that this object was a 10-foot tall structure. And as they were walking and getting closer, despite the objections of the other crew members, one of the crew members stuck out their hand to touch it on the structure and then actually tried to push on it, but it was really firmly embedded in the ground. Not just firmly, but it was like it was part of the landscape and had been there for quite some time. They couldn't see any evidence of any dirt being moved or pushed around any of the earth, but it really looked like someone had just placed a piece of modern art in the middle of this secluded canyon down on the bottom. Now, the crew was obviously shocked. They radioed back to their supervisors, told them what was going on, they asked them to kind of investigate it. So they were looking at it. They saw it had no markings, no indication of its origin or purpose. They took photos, videos, and measurements. They were trying to make sense of this 10-foot tall object just in the middle of this secluded canyon. The media quickly picked up on the story, and within hours, the Utah monolith, as they called it, became an internet sensation. You had social media talking about all these different theories. Was it art? Was it a movie prop? Was it alien technology? Or was it something more sinister? However, just 10 days later, as mysteriously as it had appeared, that monolith vanished, and visitors who had come to the site, all they saw was a triangular hole that was in the ground. It was the only trace that monolith had ever even been there. No one had seen it come, and no one had seen it go. And this mystery only deepened because there was a local, one of the locals there from the area. His name was Andy Lewis. He stepped up later and said, "You know what? I removed the monolith." And he posted a video showing how he and a couple of his friends dismantled the structure. It was nighttime, so no one could see them because they were concerned about the environmental impact that this would have on the desert. Well, many people believe his video is actually a hoax and that the monolith's disappearance is just proof that it was some kind of alien technology. Why was it placed in the Utah desert, and then why was it suddenly removed 10 days later? It still remains a mystery. And that might be the end of the story. But just as the Utah monolith disappeared, another structure emerged across the globe in Romania. This monolith was similar in shape and size, but it was not metallic and it wasn't shiny. The structure had intricate swirl marks that seemed to be actually reflecting that surrounding landscape. Now, as you can imagine, the sudden appearance of this monolith had the entire town speculating about where it came from and possible alien origins. The mayor of that town began discussing this strange object all over social media. Now, he wasn't discussing it with any serious tone. He was actually getting on there and saying, listen, this is a big prank that someone's playing on us, or a group of people. And they're not only playing on us, but they're playing on the whole world. He was telling jokes about it, suggesting that alien teenagers had taken their parents' UFO out for a joyride and just kind of dropping monoliths behind them. And just like the Utah monolith, it suddenly disappeared without a trace. But unlike the Utah monolith, it vanished after 4 days instead of 10. Now let's move forward to California, where a third monolith was discovered on Pine Mountain. This is still 2020. A group of hikers were the actually first ones to spot this monolith. It was really hard to miss because it definitely was not part of the natural terrain. And this one was a little bit different in the sense that it did not seem to be just embedded in the ground like it had been there forever. In fact, what they saw was when the wind blew, it tended to sway with the wind. Now, news of this monolith's appearance spread rapidly. So it attracted media coverage from both local and national outlets. And the unusual nature of the structure and its resemblance to the previously discovered monoliths really was fueling public curiosity. However, a group of 4 men came forward and were claiming responsibility for this monolith. They said it was a project meant to bring people joy and some sort of wonder during a challenging year. They posted a series of YouTube videos and interviews where they were explaining and demonstrating how the monolith was initially built in a few hours, and then they hauled it up the mountain. You know, they put pieces on the front of them, pieces on the back, pieces under their arms, and they were hauling these heavy things up a really tall mountain. When the original structure was torn down by vandals, these guys decided to replace it with a more permanent version that they would reinforce with concrete, because someone went up there and tore down the original one. The public's reaction was mixed. Some were excited, some were still skeptical, and some saw it sort of as an uplifting art project. Others were still wondering about this broader connection to the global monolith phenomena that was going on. Could the incident be something to distract the world from what was really going on by planting a seed of doubt on the authenticity of the monoliths themselves? Despite all of this, the monoliths kept showing up. So from North America to Europe, the monoliths were appearing with increased frequency. In December of 2020, there was a monolith that appeared on Compton Beach in the UK. So it's adding to the growing list of these structures that are popping up everywhere. This particular monolith was spotted by local residents walking along the beach with a couple of people. He noticed something seemed to be sparkling and reflecting in the sunlight. And when he got a better look, he saw that there was a 10-foot tall metallic pillar that was standing out against the sandy beach. It was similar to those discovered earlier in Utah, Romania, and California, and like its predecessors, it drew immediate attention. and people were speculating about it. But I need to tell you at this point that the most famous artists, which is an anonymous art collective based in Santa Fe, New Mexico, were claiming responsibility for the Utah and the California monoliths. However, they came forward and said, we deny any involvement in the Compton Beach, UK monolith. They were suggesting that this phenomena was taking on a life of its own, and it was inspiring others to create similar structures around the globe. It could never be verified that this group was responsible for the monoliths, and you should keep in mind that these were tall, solid structures found in very remote places, and not a single eyewitness ever to see them go up or down. That said, local reaction to the Compton Beach UK monolith ranged from amusement to sort of intrigue. So it quickly became a tourist attraction and a local tourist attraction, because people were flocking to the beach because they wanted to take a look at this monolith firsthand. And then there was a local designer who stepped up and was claiming responsibility for putting the monolith on the beach and building it. He said that he created it just for fun, and he used materials from his workplace. But when he was asked, well, how did you manage to install this without anyone ever seeing you? He said he did it around 4 a.m. and that it was really designed to stand out so people couldn't miss it and just kind of evoke mystery, of the similar structures that had appeared in other parts of the world. Well, despite the speculation about its origin, so we don't know if he was in fact truthful, this artist who said that he, erected this structure planned to leave it in place for a few days and allow people to take photos before he would remove it from the beach. We do not know if this was yet another distraction, or in fact, if this designer did create and install this monolith. India joined the mystery in 2020. In December of 2020, actually, with a monolith in Symphony Forest Park. Now, this monolith was about 7 feet tall. It was also shiny. It was made of shiny metal, and it featured a sequence of numbers that were engraved on one of its sides. These numbers were speculated to relate to longitudes and latitudes of wildlife parks in India. The monolith quickly became a popular attraction. So it was drawing locals and visitors. They wanted to, just like all the other ones, they wanted their pictures and they wanted to speculate, where did it come from? But despite its sudden appearance, no one witnessed when it was put up. The structure just later disappeared, just as mysteriously as it had appeared. But this one was replaced by a metallic sphere with a note that was thanking visitors for their enthusiasm coming out and just being, excited, right? And so far, these monoliths had been showing up in remote or hard to get places. However, in February of 2021, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, a monolith suddenly made an appearance in a busy roundabout in one of their capital cities. It was a 12-foot metallic structure, and it quickly became a focal point for the residents. They were rushing from the city and surrounding areas to take pictures and speculate, where did it come from? However, the reaction wasn't entirely positive, because within a few days, that monolith was set on fire and destroyed by the locals because they were suspicious and fearful of its sudden appearance. Now, they called it a bad omen. And this destructive reaction really highlighted that mix that people were feeling of both intrigue and somewhat anxiety, because they couldn't identify where these were coming from and no one was witnessing it. And this was also an area that has less exposure to global media. So the Congo's monolith's brief existence and dramatic destruction really added to the growing list of monolith mysteries. that continued to happen around the world, just leaving behind questions about, who is doing this, what's it meant to represent, what's the purpose. But despite these questions, no group or individual has ever come forward to claim responsibility for this particular monolith. So this just adds to the mystery surrounding them. We know some people have made claim, and there's monoliths where no one has. One of the most intriguing, I think, this host thinks, monoliths appeared in February 2021 in Göbekli Tepe, Turkey, which is an ancient site that many refer to as the world's oldest temple. Now, I find it intriguing because this particular monolith had Old Turkic script inscribed on it, and when it was translated, it read, "If you want to see the moon, look up to the sky." So the appearance of this type of structure at this historical site really added a profound historical context to this mystery, because it seemed to be blending some of this ancient with the modern in a really strange way. However, the mystery was short-lived, because just a few days later, it vanished as mysteriously as it had appeared. Now, the Turkey government came forward later, and they claimed responsibility for the monolith, and they said it was a publicity stunt for Turkey's national space program. Either way, it added a unique twist to the growing global monolith phenomena. At this point, the world was holding its collective breath, waiting for an appearance from another monolith, but the months just kept ticking away without any showing up, and then we moved into 2022. It wasn't long before the world would see the reappearance of the monoliths, because in January of that year, a monolith appeared in Berlin. The monolith stood about 10 feet tall and was similar in appearance to the others that had been discovered worldwide. Its sudden presence in such a prominent and historical location, it was in one of Berlin's most famous and expansive urban parks, obviously drew a lot of attention from both locals and tourists. However, it didn't really stay long. We shouldn't be surprised by that at this point, because within a few days, it was removed, actually, by a group of locals. So whether it disappears mysteriously or locals remove it, and they're always expressing concern about the impact it has on the environment. So this removal echoed the fate of many of the other monoliths, which often disappeared as mysteriously as they appeared. Now, Canada, specifically Vancouver, had a monolith appear near their waterfront. This one was a bit different, kind of very interesting. They all are, but this one is even more interesting. It stood about 10 feet tall and 2 feet wide. Music was coming from it. So in particular, it was playing the theme song from 2001, A Space Odyssey, but it was also playing several different science fiction sound effects. As you can imagine, this one also quickly became a local attraction, and it drew a lot of visitors who were intrigued by its appearance and the sounds it produced. It disappeared as quickly as it appeared, and to date, no one has claimed responsibility. The world would have to wait long before the monoliths would start appearing again. But in 2023, a mysterious monolith appeared in Ukraine. Now, this particular monolith was actually discovered in the capital city. And despite political tensions, it became the number one topic of the locals. The monolith stood about 10 feet tall. It had a similar reflective surface to the other monoliths found around the world. And just as mysteriously as it appeared, it disappeared after a short period. So it left behind more questions than answers. And then later that same year, In Australia, Melbourne exactly, another monolith appeared, and it appeared in a public park. It was a 10 feet tall metallic structure, and it was specifically appeared in the Royal Botanic Garden. So this is one of Melbourne's most iconic spaces, and everyone was flocking to it. Visitors, locals, they wanted to take a picture. They wanted to, just commune and be in awe of this mysterious object. Now, this monolith in Melbourne did follow some of the global trends of the other structures that had appeared unexpectedly starting in 2020 around the world. It was made of reflective metal panels. And what was interesting about this one, it was mirroring the surrounding skyline. It created, witnesses said, almost an otherworldly presence in the park. But just like that, it disappeared mysteriously after just a very short period. And this disappearance only added at the time to the intrigue and mystery surrounding these structures. So it leaves behind more questions than answers. Sightings of these mysterious monoliths went silent after that. Well, until June of this year, because a mysterious monolith was discovered near Gas Peak in the Desert National Wildlife Refuge. That's located just north of Las Vegas, Nevada. So this one was only 6'4" inches tall. It was a reflective metallic structure, and it was first spotted by the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department search and rescue team. Yes, you heard that right. Let me explain. The police were likely the first to discover it due to the remote and rugged location where it was placed. The search and rescue team regularly patrol and monitor those areas for public safety and environmental protection, so it makes sense that they discovered it on one of their routine operations. But I want you to pay attention to this part that I find interesting. Now, the Desert National Wildlife Refuge, it is a really large, expansive area, and it has challenging terrain. So it makes it really less accessible to the general public, really non-accessible. This remote setting, combined with the police team's presence in the area, explains, okay, they were the first, why, they encountered it. But what I find interesting is that the police, they documented that they found it. They immediately assessed the situation and immediately made the decision to remove it due to environmental and public safety concerns. And it was removed quickly. So this monolith's disappearance, once again, is just adding to the ongoing global phenomena of monolith sightings that began in 2020. It's continuing to captivate the public's imagination. It continues to fuel discussions about who created these, what's their purpose, who's the creator of these, do they even have a purpose? And 2024 brought us another new monolith, so that wasn't the only one, in Colorado. So it was discovered northwest of Fort Collins near Bellevue. It was also a reflective metallic structure. It stood about 10 feet tall, and it quickly made its way onto social media buzz and became, a local curiosity. It was found in a remote area. So again, that just adds to the intrigue and difficulty in understanding how it was placed there without detection. I mean, the monolith's presence in this remote area obviously was attracting visitors. They were all, flocking. They wanted to touch the structure. They wanted to speculate about where it came from. They wanted to take pictures. And it was similar to the other monoliths that have appeared, that started appearing in 2020. And in that respect, we don't have any witnesses to the monolith going up and the subsequent disappearance. We're all shrouded in mystery. No group or individual has come forward and claimed responsibility for this monolith, and its sudden appearance followed by its sudden disappearance continues to spark speculation and intrigue globally. Now, one thing that was different this time, authorities did come out publicly and they said they were concerned about the potential environmental impact and possible public safety issue. So they were talking about the appropriate response they should have. But just like this monolith and many before it, it just adds another chapter to the ongoing story of these fascinating structures, which seem to blend art, mystery, modern, and ancient mythology, really. There are a lot of theories and local reactions, and these theories about these monoliths are as varied as their location. So I'll discuss a few of those because there's a lot. But some believe they are just art and they were made to pay tribute to other artists who are known for similar work, such as John McCracken, for example. Some believe that it's part of a global prank or a social experiment. Some believe that it's extraterrestrial in nature, suggesting that these monoliths are alien signals or markers. Local reactions, obviously, depending upon where it is, have ranged from fascination to fear, because in Romania, we know that the monolith's sudden appearance and disappearance prompted intense media coverage and speculation, but the mayor was basically saying that it was a joke. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, suspicion led to the monolith's destruction because they said, hey, this is a bad omen. In India, they were intrigued that those etched coordinates possibly could mean something more, and so they kept it, until it disappeared. It was, a temporary attraction there. Now, the mysterious monoliths that have been appearing around the world, often in remote and hard to reach locations, continue to spread, speculation about their origin. Some theorists believe that these structures are indeed from extraterrestrial sources. The idea that these monoliths were placed by alien visitors is interesting, especially given the precision and speed with which they have appeared and disappeared, because the sheer logistical challenge of placing such heavy reflective structures in desolate deserts, dense forest, or even isolated mountain ranges without detection really adds to that intrigue. I mean, how could they be transported and installed without leaving any trace or being noticed by anyone? That seems to be a very common question because it hasn't been answered. The possibility that these monoliths are alien artifacts brings with it a sense of wonder and a sense of mystery. If these structures are indeed from another world, what could their purpose be? Are they messages, markers, or perhaps tools for observation? Perhaps the reflective surfaces of the monoliths could be designed to capture and relay information, acting as maybe silent sentinels monitoring our planet. This theory would align with the long-standing fascination that humanity has with the concept of alien life and their potential to interact with us, maybe in subtle, profound ways, such as the monoliths. Even skeptics would have to admit that the appearance of these monoliths without anyone witnessing coming up or going down really challenges our understanding of the possible, because they are usually in these very remote, hard to reach places. The notion that something so extraordinary could be happening right before our eyes tends to stir the imagination. It certainly compels us to consider the boundaries of our reality. Now, I'm not saying this is fact. I'm just saying all things are possible. As we look ahead, who knows what the rest of 2024 will bring, or what 2025 and beyond has in store. So whether these monoliths are a grand hoax, a series of artistic endeavors, or truly extraterrestrial artifacts, they have undoubtedly captured the world's and this host's attention and imagination. Stay curious, and until next time, keep your eyes and mind open to the impossible.